Welcome everyone again here in this conference room and also virtually around the globe. And my slide has been switched over anyway. So it's really very great to be here on this stage. This has been a long time since we haven't had, or I haven't had the chance to apply such kind of conference, and we somehow got used to this online virtual world or something like that. Probably you all know that that on Monday, for a couple of hours, Facebook and all the related thing went down, right? You have probably heard about that, right? So it was about 6 p.m. at least in this time zone. So please raise your hand if you have immediately noticed that on Monday. Okay, a few of you. Raise your hand if you noticed it somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m. Okay, 7 and 8 p.m. Okay, there are a few people who are not fully hooked on social media. Raise your hand if you haven't noticed it only just on Tuesday, or have you heard just about that on the news? Very good. So at least there are some people who are not fully addicted to online social media. I'm also not, fortunately, not so much addicted to that. But I'm somewhat addicted to have conference talks. So actually, I started to count the days, and actually it turned out that I haven't been on stage for 606 days, 22 hours, and 25 minutes. But I'm here now, so that's all great that we can make this. So my name is Gáspár Nagy, as you have heard, and basically many of the people know me because of SpecFlow. SpecFlow is a .NET-based behavior-driven development tool, kind of the port of Cucumber that I did 12 years ago. And basically that was the time when I got somehow connected with software testing and generally about quality. Before that, probably I was just an ordinary developer or ordinary lead developer. And but through that change, through that tool and through that open source project, basically it was a kind of eye opener for me. And I just can value and enjoy much more the quality part, the testing part of the software development process. And this is what this talk is about. So. This talk is about that quality is not only testing, and I think probably many of you, I can kind of agree to that. And but I think this is a message. This is something that we have to keep carry on and repeat it many times so that we really understand what that means. And for me, let me just start with a kind of story that has happened to me. So a little bit about my background. Currently, I work as a BDD trainer, coach, so that's what I'm doing as a main job, and I'm a kind of independent trainer from this kind. But I started my own business 6 years ago. And it was a big change. If you have ever started an own business, then you know how hard it is. So you just before that, I was a regular employer and an employee, sorry, and I got my salary every month. And then suddenly I thought that okay, now I have to find my own businesses. And of course, in the beginning, it was super hard because you need to get clients. And I had several years of BDD experience by that time, so it was 6 years ago. But still, the start was always hard. And at one day, someone was calling me that there's a local client, and this local client would like to have some discussion about BDD, and they invited me to join them for a day and have a workshop with them. And obviously, I was super happy because finally I have one of my first clients, and whatever my business is getting started, and you know, so I had several years of BDD experience. I was already talking at conferences, so I was going there like, okay, I just go there, talk about BDD, make the invoice, and that was happened. So somehow what I expected that I will go there and I will see something like that. Unfortunately, this is not what happened. So when I entered the meeting, I rather found some unhappy faces. People were absolutely not seem to be interested about BDD at all. It was clear from the beginning that they have some testing problems, but they didn't understand why. It was really like a hard time, and But as I said, so I had to be there and I had to solve that problem. So I started to improvise. And since it looked like that they have some testing problems, I started to have a discussion about them, some kind of interview them, how do they do testing? And I got very interesting answers or very interesting things. So someone was saying that, hey, actually we have our tests are integration tests. Someone else was saying that, well, we have a bunch of unit tests. Someone else was saying that actually what we are doing, we are, of course, going into some more details. We are checking whether the HTTP status code is 201 in this particular case. Some others said that, well, actually, we are also doing that just in unit tests. And maybe some other people said that actually we are running our tests on Selenium. So I get such answers. And for the first look, they don't look very strange. So, I mean, yeah, they are doing testing, right? So they are explaining how they are doing testing in some ways. But somehow it was a kind of a strange thing. Whenever we digged into the details, and as I did these interviews, basically what turned out that all of them felt very confident about their own testing. So they said that they are doing perfect testing. However, when they were thinking about as a product, the whole system, they said that the whole system is very badly tested. So there was some sort of problem or conflict between the viewpoints. And typically they were saying, as you probably hear that also many often, that actually our testing is good and the problem is always at the other side. And of course the other side was also presented in the meeting, so it wasn't really a pleasant meeting. And whenever they were talking about their own testing, they said that they are doing good testing, but they didn't seem to be motivated. So they were not happy about testing. So they somehow knew that they are doing it right, but somehow they were not really motivated about that. And whenever I was asking for some suggestions, so what do they think, how they could have improved their testing and how they could improve their situation, I got answers like, well, actually, we should have done more of X test, Selenium test, doesn't matter, just replace it with any kind of technology, or actually we should have been done Water instead of Selenium or something like that. Again, just replace the technical names with any random technology name. So basically that was the situation. That was the end of the initial interview round, and somehow still we haven't really got the grip of what their real problem is. So we went into details, and I did an exercise with them, which turned to be a very, very useful exercise. I do that very often since then. So I was just simply asking them to draw their system diagram. This is not their system diagram. I have taken it from a great website, the C4 model. If you are interested in diagrams, then just go there. So I was asked them to draw their system diagram, and this exercise itself was very, very valuable because it turned out that they are not having an agreement. So sometimes they even had some discussion whether this component is connected with that one or not. So immediately, just by letting them draw the diagram at the whiteboard, basically they started to understand each other's parts or better understand their concept. So that definitely turned to be a kind of useful thing. And what was also useful, that whenever we had this diagram drawn, it was much easier to talk about their testing. So whenever they said that they are testing this and these parts, we could simply easily visualize that. Of course, in a whiteboard, it's a little bit, you have to rather point than having some overlay on top of that. But so we were able to visualize that this is basically the coverage of the tests of that particular team or group there. But still, I mean, with that, we were able to have a better chance to analyze the problem, but not really. And actually, after some further discussions, we have realized one important thing, and this is one thing that I would like to also give you as some kind of message, because I see this as a recurring problem. I also fell into this problem, and many other people are falling into this problem, that somehow we are always thinking about this what is the coverage of my test. So that you can also measure. It doesn't matter whether you measure it or not, but what is the coverage of my test? But actually, the coverage of your tests is an important measure, obviously, but it doesn't give you any kind of hint about the target of your test. So what you are really testing there. And because obviously the tests are exercising much more part of the system than they are really testing. Just think about the preconditions, how to set up your precondition. You might need to exercise the other parts of the application. Sometimes to be able to verify the post conditions, you need to also exercise some parts of the application. So definitely the measurable coverage is a much larger set. And what we are really interested in is what the target of the tests are. So basically, we had to refine our questions to be able to get that better. So instead of asking, what do you test? Maybe you should have a better question like, what is in the focus of your test, or what is the target of your test, or something like that. That's probably a better question. And with those questions, we were able to dig deeper into this diagram. So we were able to identify what is the target of the test. So actually that particular component is being tested by that particular group. Obviously, we were able to see the dependencies. So what kind of other areas of the system is somehow exercised with the test. And also very important, which is not even part of the coverage, is that what is the impact of the test? So what kind of systems are dependent on the thing that you are currently testing, and trying to analyze the situation, trying to analyze their testing that way, were pretty useful, because we finally were able to better realize some sort of overlap, that this particular component has been targeted by multiple tests. On the other hand, there are a couple of components that are not tested or not targeted with any kind of test at all. So at this point, the thing is really started to become a really useful discussion, and I really encourage you to do similar discussions with your own project, because this is really useful. So by the time, I think it was around lunchtime, the meeting got better. Everyone became a little bit more cooperative and positive. But unfortunately, at that time, the product owner was stepping in, and he was not really a nice person. Or at least he couldn't really resist his emotions, or how to say that. So basically, he was coming in and just said that, well, the system doesn't work at all, and we are anyway late, and this whole thing is very bad. I don't use another word for that. So it was a kind of shocking moment. So everyone was already in the positive mood, and then we were kind of freezed. And for the team, this was even worse. I also felt the pain that they feel by having such a strong word. For me, it was a little bit easier because I was an outsider. So I was able to manage to keep calm and try to put away my emotional feelings. So I tried to dig deeper into these statements. So I was asking that, okay, so system doesn't work at all. So what do you mean by that? Well, it is like that because this was a system where you had to manage some doctor's appointment. So actually, many users are unable to really book a doctor's appointment here. Okay, so that's more useful information. And I was again just asking him a little bit more in detail. So how do you imagine? So what is the typical situation? How somebody is booking a doctor's appointment? And he was basically explaining it to me. You will not see it very much because it's a small text, but basically a process how it works. So the registered user is going to this doctor's appointment booking part, and they are selecting the doctor. They got a kind of calendar with the possible dates, and they are just selecting the dates. They are finalizing their booking, and then they receive a confirmation mail. So that's basically the main flow of the application, or the main flow of the thing that has happened at that particular component. And he said that during that, so this flow is actually kind of buggy, and even that one doesn't work all the time. So, and he was running away. And again, we had the system diagram up there, and in this shocking moment, we were trying to think about what he said. So basically, he said a concrete situation, and so it was easy to say that, okay, let's take this concrete situation. So where do we test this? And there was a silence like this, and people start to say that, well, actually some parts are tested in this unit test and some parts are tested in this API level, but we couldn't really answer the question, so that there were no real good spot that we are testing this particular aspect of that. So it became obvious to everyone that why do we have problems. And then we went into the detailed statements that they earlier done. I will not say many of them, just one example. Let's say, if it comes, so that the question was that you remember someone was saying that they are testing whether the status code is 201. So I was asking that, okay, but why do you test this? That's a very good question. Why do you test this? And the answer was that there was a good answer, of course. They were confident about the testing because they said that we are testing this because there is a kind of company standard and all of our REST APIs has to be conform with that, blah, 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 blah. So there was a good reason for that. So basically, if you think about what has happened in that in this situation, so when we were retrospectively trying to think it back, then basically what happened that there were a bunch of technologies, just like we all are, and they were given to us to do testing. And what happened, no surprise, they were producing a bunch of technologies. So without having more purpose and target, this is what has happened. And basically, they were not collaborating. They were only focusing on their technological aspect, how they are doing testing, and they were somehow missing this common goal. So that what is the purpose of their job that they are doing? And probably this was also the reason why they were not really motivated for that. And obviously, and I think this happens all the time, and if you are going down to the technology level, then people are starting to debate. And this is what also happens there. So instead of collaborating, they rather did the opposite. So they were thinking about that whether Selenium is better than, or WATI or some such kind of questions. I don't know how about you. I was born in, no, I started my software development career at the time when people were hooked on different code editors, and everyone had their own favorite code editors, and we were doing a very big debates on that. So this situation somewhat reminded me for that. And I think at that time I was in the university. We had this joke. I don't know if you have heard that you can let a horse to the water, but you can't make them use your favorite text editor. So that's somehow the feeling that I had there. And of course, there is no escape from that. There is no way to get out of this situation instead of having a common goal, which is in our case, is to have the quality. And of course, quality is a very common word, and it's easy to argue about, but actually, if you want to go down to details that what quality means, actually it turns out it's very hard to define that. It's very hard to say that whether it's quality or not, or making it even measurable, that's even more hard. So realizing that the common goal is the quality, that's already a good achievement, but you have to go further and you have to develop some sort of practices how this can be developed. And so again, we have to move away from the how do you test to the what do you test kind of questions. So I really like this quote from Ken Beck, even though that is got a very various feedback from the community. He said that he's get paid by the code that he's doing, not by the test. And don't get it wrong. So this doesn't mean that the tests are not variable, but it means that our goal is the quality. That's what he said, basically a little bit more techie way. And from that perspective, I think this is absolutely fine. But what the testings, how does the testing gets to the quality? So how they are related to each other, and it's very hard to answer that, but and obviously there are plenty of different ways to approach that. I really like the way how it was approached by Dan North. In one of his presentations, he was basically getting together the quality related to the confidence, and I really like that. So quality is about confidence. How much confident you are that your system will behave properly. So, and he was saying that the testing has an important part of that because the tests are providing some sort of evidence that are increasing your confidence. Okay, so that's how you should see testing. So testing doesn't ensure quality itself. Testing doesn't improve the quality. It is basically improving your confidence that what you did is a quality thing. So. So how to address that? How to address quality? And as I said, it's very hard to make a talk about quality in general. And on the other hand, if you are trying to break down this quality bubble into some smaller aspects, then the thing becomes a little bit easier. And there are multiple models how you can break down the quality into different aspects. There are ones that are dividing it to 4 groups, 5 groups, 3 groups, doesn't matter. I just show the one that I'm using, but don't take it as a recipe. So feel free to adapt it to your own needs. So basically I was stealing some of the keywords from Kevin Henney. You don't see his source reference on the right down side. So basically, I like to think about quality in 3 different aspects. And the first aspect is something that everyone understands. Let's see, yeah, the functional aspect of the quality. So when you think about the functional quality, what do you think? What does that mean? How would you define the functional quality? What is a functional quality means? What do you think? People get used to having in a physical conference where the speaker is asking questions and looking into your eyes, right? So does it work better as expected? So the initial thing that you think about functional quality, that it should work as expected, and this is absolutely right. However, if you dig into that more, it's a little bit more than that, because having it work as expected is important, but it's also important whether those expectations are senseful, so whether you really know the expectations, and whether those expectations are somewhat documented, because otherwise you cannot really address that. But this is about functional quality. There is another quality aspect that basically everyone knows. So if you think about an application, let's say that they are all good in terms of functional quality, it really works as expected, but it's super slow, it's ugly. That's not really that we feel a quality thing. And some people call this aspect operational quality. There are other names as well. And this is where all those things are coming in, so that it should be secure, it should be fast, it should be convenient, it should be whatever else. So those are the 2 quality aspects that many people are really considering. But interestingly, this is not all. So there is a 3rd one as well. And if you think about the 3rd one, you should think about, so I started my software programmer career in the high school in a way that I was programming some small games like many of the developers did at that time. And a couple of years ago, I have found my old games that I developed at that age, and it turned out that they are still working. So I was able to play, some of them were even multiplayer game. So I did it with my brother. And the games were working, they were counting the scores properly, they were beauty in that level that was beauty at that time. And so they were all good. So they were satisfying the functional and the operational quality. However, when I looked into the source code, this was Turbo Pascal at that time, I have found that at that time I was making some methods with hundreds of lines. It was a full spaghetti code. Of course, you didn't have any chance to make any change there, not because I don't have a Turbo Pascal compiler anymore, but it was definitely not a code base that was easy to maintain. Right? You see, so even though that they were fulfilling the first 2 quality aspects, there is a 3rd one that was missing, which again, you can find different names. I'm just calling it strategic quality, right? That's a very business-oriented quality aspect, because that's what ensures that your business is going to be operational in the next years as well. So it's not enough to have a working application today, but you want to keep it and you want to keep maintaining it and add new features to that next year. And for that you need this, think about the operational quality. And this is where good architecture, nice code base, clean code, maintainability, all these other things are getting into. Okay? So this is one breakdown of the quality aspects. You can use others as well. But now you already see that as we have broken down the quality into different aspects, it's much easier to address that. Okay? And what we did on that workshop, we were basically going into these quality aspects and trying to fill it up with some very concrete details depending on that application. This is what I also encourage you. So sit down with your team and say that, okay, let's think about what kind of quality criteria do we have in terms of the functional thing? What kind of quality criteria are important for us in terms of the other two things? And and this is what you should do. I will show you that in a second. So just one more word about the functional quality. I said that it's not enough that it works as expected, but it has to be also, the expectations should be clear and documented. Obviously, that is where I have my connection to behavior-driven development. That's what behavior-driven development is basically helping you for, so that if the business is telling a concrete example like the one that you have seen, then we can make that a better documented and better understandable and even testable solution with the BDD scenario. I will not go to that, but I just couldn't resist putting some BDD slides into my slide deck. So that's a short excursion. So what you should really do with your team, and this is what we did, you just go down into these quality aspects and try to figure out what is important for you in that area. Unfortunately, I don't have the records from that particular meeting, so I had to make it up. And of course, if you have to make it up, obviously it will also be a little bit fuzzy, but maybe this is an example. And you can see that sometimes you can write even very concrete things like, as part of the functional quality, it has to handle time zones because they were operational in countries where they were in different time zones. So that's a very important functional thing. Or it should also provide some anonymous access and also some other access. Operational, that since the doctors have to be and the patients were using that, it has to be working properly on a mobile system, and it had to be multi-language because it was used in different countries. Or from the strategic point of view, this company was starting small, so scalability was not really an issue yet for them, but they wanted to prepare for ruining the world and being the best doctor's appointment kind of application. They didn't want to implement all those things, but they wanted to make sure that their architecture is somehow supporting scalability. So that was an important goal for them. Maybe in your application, totally different things are getting into this list. So just take this as an example. Good. So so nice. So let's say that you discussed that over, and now we have a better understanding of what do we want in this particular application, in this particular project, in terms of quality. But at the end, we would like to ensure or increase our confidence with tests. So obviously, we want to make some tests for that. So how do we find the right test methods? And you see now how the turn is basically turned around. So instead of finding the purpose for the test method, now we have the purpose, and now we are finding the test method for that. So we basically flipped around the things. Unfortunately, there is no simple method for that, and many things can be tested in many different ways. So just because you are just want to test whether the application is properly supporting different time zones, probably have plenty of options. But that's a good thing, because now this is triggering collaboration. So you alone will not be able to decide what's the best way to ensure that kind of quality aspect, but you as a team will do. And then you probably together will be able to find the best way to that. And I said, and it's maybe you will not be able to decide that alone, so you will need to talk to the others. And this has to be collaboratively, that's what I said. So there is no fixed recipe on how you would need to do that, but obviously you can with the collaboration, with some discussions, and there is some helps as well. So what you have seen, having a system diagram or component diagram in place where you can have the discussion is definitely helpful. And probably you have heard about the test automation pyramid and the testing quadrant as well. Those are also useful tools that you can use for that. And actually, at the end, what you will have, so now you have the purpose, now you have what you want to address, and now you have the methods of how you are going to ensure that, then this will become your testing strategy. So that's the next point, and now I would like to start collecting all those things that we have said. So when I was practicing doing some sort of testing strategies, in my previous company, we have sometimes done some testing strategies which were like 20 pages of Word document. we were spending a lot of time on that and nobody has read that. And it's really annoying that you are putting a lot of time and effort and finally it's just not used and getting very out. The one-page test plan. And one of my favorite part of the book. So one-page test plan means that that you have to, no worries, that try to make a test plan which is fitting to one A4 page, because that's probably the size that people are some kind of understanding. And I really got used to that. So I really got that concept, and I was trying to adapt it to some sort of test strategy. So my wish would be having a one-page test strategy. I haven't yet be able to do that, but at least a 4-page test strategy is something we can maybe achieve. And this is what I would like to encourage you to do for that. So that basically the test strategy is like an overall test plan. So you need to have similar things that you would have in a one-page test strategy. So as I said, it should be custom and specific to your own project. And basically, and again, this is just take it as a suggestion and definitely not a rule. I like to have 4 things to be listed in a test strategy. So I like to, I mean, these are common testing things. So I like to list the risks, but I don't like the word risk. Risk is frightening people. I like to call it challenges. Actually, it's the same. So what kind of challenges do we have in this application that we would like to address? What kind of quality aspects do we have, as you have seen? What kind of testing methods we have chosen, and how do we get feedback about that test? So that's basically, that's the 4 thing that I like to include into a test strategy, and that makes a 4-page. So if you are lucky enough, then you can really shrink it in a way that it fits into 4-page. Maybe the testing methods is a little bit tricky from that perspective. Let me just give you a few examples for that. Again, don't read all the text here. These are just examples. So whenever, for example, you are thinking about the challenges, you should think about what is the specialty of your application. What makes this application more challenging for you to be able to develop it, to be able to test it. And the system should be robust enough so that So these are the risks that you can come on. And typically, starting with those or having these discussions early on is a very good starting point for having any kind of discussions. The second thing is the quality aspects. We have already shown you that, so I don't want to go into the details. And again, just a few examples for the test methods and the feedback channels. I don't want to go too much into that. In terms of the test methods, basically we would need to define that what is the purpose of that particular test method that we are using, what is the automation strategy there, what if the test has a specific structure, that how do we build up that structure, and maybe what shouldn't be included there or something like that. That's also I find useful. And the last thing, the feedback channel is also very important. So, and typically in a moderate size of project, there are multiple CI pipelines, and you will be surprised how much people are not aware what a particular CI pipeline, what kind of information it can provide. So it makes sense to sit down. It doesn't have to be a super good long thing. Just in a few bullet points, say that if you see this particular build failing, what does that mean, and how to address that. So those kind of things are kind of important. So that makes this 4-page or 4-ish page test strategy. Again, don't take it as a recipe. Just take it more like a kind of suggestion. So the last thing that I wanted to just talk about is this test automation pyramid. I said that it's one of the useful tools that can help you to find the test methods for your particular purpose. And as far as I have seen with the test automation pyramid, there are anyway typically a lot of questions and a lot of problems. So I thought that let's make just a very brief summary for that. So many people have that kind of misbelief that the test automation pyramid will help you with the strategy, but unfortunately it's not. So probably many of you know about the test automation pyramid. It's typically a 3-level thing. It's is triangle shape, and there are usually different labels on that, but sometimes on the top you say user interface or end-to-end test. In the bottom it always says unit test, and in the middle sometimes says service test or integration test or things like that. And people are trying to make this happen to their own project, but I have never seen anyone being able to properly do test automation. Have any of you have such a nice pyramid shape in your project? Okay, no one raised their hand. So, definitely, this is not working as a kind of prescription. So it just makes you frustration because you feel that it's a goal. I should have been done here, but I'm not. So I'm definitely doing it wrong. The problem is that actually, the things that we are putting onto the pyramid are test methods. Okay, and the statement that we need more unit tests doesn't make any sense. We have just learned that unit test is a method, is not the goal, right? So more unit tests doesn't increase your confidence. Okay, so that's not related to the quality. So I had in 2008 I had a presentation about the test pyramid where as part of the research for that talk I was trying to analyze many different successful projects and were trying to make some shapes out of their pyramids, and it turned out that at least there are 9 different shapes that is not pyramid but it's actually working and can support you. So that's they were including things like the testing toothbrush. I was trying to make some funny names of that, or the testing lunchbox set where all of the tests are tested. The same test can be tested towards different architectural models. So there are many of them. So which also just highlights that the shape itself is not the important thing. The important thing is the quality aspects that we were discussing. And now the question is that, okay, if the important thing is the quality aspects, then how this comes together with the pyramid. So let's just make a quick thought experiment. So I was just writing down the 3 different aspects with different colors, and I was trying to imagine some kind of test of the different kinds. So for the functional quality, maybe I have some heavy path scenarios, which I'm testing through the UI. Maybe have some specific functional scenarios that I'm testing through the service layer. But maybe I have also some edge cases that is easiest to test in the unit level, or maybe some data variation tests that are much easier to verify in that level. That's interesting. Operational, the same story. So maybe you have a smoke test that is ensuring that your application is generally operational. That's maybe you are doing it as an end-to-end test, but maybe you want to test whether the UI is responsive enough that can be done with a unit test, or maybe even timeout handling. Timeout handling is an integration problem, right? But it's very hard to test it in integration, right? So it's a strange thing. So you are testing it in UI, in unit testing or database durability test. And the same with the strategical things. You can find some different tests, and it looks like that they are totally orthogonal to the pyramid. So just because it's functional, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be on the top. Just because it's whatever strategic, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be full at the bottom. So what you can learn from that, and even since then, I'm trying to use my language properly so that we are saying unit test, we are saying integration test, but testing the integration is not the same as integration testing. Testing our units is not necessarily the same as unit testing. And again, this is the difference between the purpose and the tooling or the thing that you can have. So how can we just still make some order in this pyramid, especially if this thing seems to be cross-cutting there. And this is what we can use the testing pyramid as a concept, and this will be the last one for today, don't worry. So the testing pyramid is a concept where let's just plot these different kind of test kinds into the pyramid, and if you just turn your head like that, I help you. Then what happens, this is the maximum PowerPoint animation skills that I have. So if you did that, what you can do that, again, our pyramid turned into an iceberg, and which has some things above the sea level and has some things below the sea level. And in this case, if you are considering the functional test, basically our sea level is whether that particular test is interesting for the business. Do they want to make feedback about it? Whether this is really the functional that they wanted to expect, or the thing is more like a technical thing, so that which is ensuring our technical excellence. Okay, so that's how this thing is getting into, and again with such kind of concept, you can do that. And actually, that's not only true for the functional, even though that's the easiest to say, but for all of the quality aspects, you can draw some sort of diagonals in the pyramid and see how it crosses through, and try to find which ways it can help you. And actually, if you do that, there is one little more step that makes sense to do, because actually, as you see, I was drawing this light rays in a way that they are even going out of the test automation pyramid, because even though that we are trying to force test automation as much as possible, there is a world outside of automation as well. So maybe for functional quality, doing some exploratory testing can also help you to reach your quality expectations. Maybe for operational quality, some static code analysis checks can help you to get your quality expectations. Or even for strategic, a pair programming, an ensemble programming, or mock programming can help you to get a better strategical quality. So don't focus yourself into the automation. This is absolutely not against the CI/CD concept. So continuous delivery, it doesn't mean that everything is automated. It's just everything that makes sense to automate is automated. That's what we can say. So basically, we can say that the testing pyramid is basically a thinking tool. Don't take it as a recipe. Don't try to fill it up and worry if your shape is not really a pyramidal shape, but try to think about how you can make a good balance when all of your quality aspects are addressed, and try to find what is the best way to be able to test those things and to be able to address those things. So the to-be tester was saying a nice quote, so that maybe this is something a useful tool for them. Okay. Wrap up. So quality is not only testing. That was my message for today. I hope that despite the kind of technical challenges, you get that right. And what you have probably seen here is that that quality is not only testing, but it's more about collaboration and strategy, and these things work together. So collaboration requires strategy. Strategy requires collaboration, so all these things are happening together, and hopefully then you get the happy faces now. But this is not the end. So I was there at that company. I had to solve their problem. I had to help them to solve their own problems. But now it's your turn. So have fun. Thank you very much.